Why, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of ProTalk, Redefining What's Possible. The guest who's with me today, I'm really excited to introduce you guys to her. She has an amazing journey of 17 years, starting from a government job to being a head of HR of a reputable company. She has an amazing journey, and it is true inspiration for a lot of us. Let me introduce you, Mehreen Khan.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, for having me on the show. And I'm really excited to what's coming ahead in the podcast.
Thank you so much for taking out time for our podcast. So, Mehreen, since I know you for a while now and I know a bit about your story, but I would love if you tell your story to our viewers. The industry switches that you've done, how was all about this? Because आपने diverse इंडस्ट्रीज में काम किया, एक दफा आपने जिस इंडस्ट्री में काम किया उसके बाद आपने वापस इस इंडस्ट्री में नहीं किया. So tell us about your story, how it worked out for you, whatever it was.
Acha ji, it all started when I was in my university and I decided to have HR and marketing as my majors. But I was very clear in my head that I have to pursue my career in HR because I was kind of a shy and an introvert person. Plus, मेरा थोड़ा सा mindset इस साइड पे था भी नहीं कि मैं कोई आउटडोर जॉब करूँ या इस तरह की. So I was very clear in my mind that I have to pursue my career in HR. So right after university, I started off with what you call an unconventional kind of a job. That was in Sin Secretariat. That was the start of my career, a very rough start, I would say. So वो बेनज़ीर का ज़माना था जिसमें they launched a national internship program, and I was given the opportunity in Sin Secretariat in the Services General Administration and the Coordination Department. That is a kind of an HR department over there. So वहाँ पे एक तरीके की ट्रेनिंग थी. We got to work on ACRs and note sheets and inquiries. But वहाँ जाके मुझे आइडिया हुआ कि this is not my cup of tea. ठीक है, because the kind of environment we are having in the government offices, typical bureaucratic structure. So I knew that this is not where I am meant to be. So right after the internship, the contractual job concluded, I started a job in Calsoft. That was owned by the Kanani and Kalia group. It's a software house. So वहाँ पे I was placed in the organization learning department.
Great.
Because as per compliance, there was a compulsion to have an internal training department in-house. So वहाँ पे I got to work on training. Then I made a switch to Lendi Renzo, that is an Italian multinational. I call Lendi Renzo as a breakthrough in my career because though I was working on a junior position, I was working previously on the executive role, and then I was promoted to the assistant manager. But I was heading the department, and I was reporting directly to the MD Asia Pacific region, Mr. Alberto Barberi. So why I call it a breakthrough in my career is because I got to work with the people of different nationalities, Latvians, Romanians, Russians, Italians. और वहाँ पे रोल इस तरह का था. It was a small organization, like we had a franchise office here, but coordination हमारा corporate office से था. Plus apart from that, क्योंकि energy sector से relate करता था, तो I got a chance to have meeting with the Minister of Petroleum. We used to go to Italian embassy and all. So there was a lot of exposure that was there in that job.
And what was your age when you met the petroleum minister?
I was 23.
Oh, that's amazing, and I think that's what we're trying to promote. That it's all in the head. If you and I try to do things become possible. Because I think a lot of people have this thing कि जब हम 40-50 पे पहुंचेंगे तो मे भी हम जाके किसी मिनिस्टर से मिल रहे होंगे.
बिल्कुल.
And you were able to meet a minister at the
I was able to meet him because
Yeah.
I was made part of that committee. क्योंकि उस वक्त CNG से related कुछ चीज़ें चल रही थी. There was certain ban that was being imposed by the government and all. And since I had good writing skills, good written writing skills, so I was assigned the task to write press releases by my boss. So since I was already working on this project that was not pertinent to HR, but because of some of my skills, he felt that I should be given this responsibility. So उसके perspective में I got a chance to meet with the Italian ambassador as well, the Minister of Petroleum. So this is why I call this a breakthrough in my career.
सही. So ये जो transitions थी आपने जो की और till date जो आपने transitions की in the career in the industry, वो आपके लिए कितनी मुश्किल रही?
अच्छा, इनिशियली तो मैंने इस चीज़ को ऐसे सोचा नहीं था कि आई एम मेकिंग इंडस्ट्री ट्रांजिशन. इट वाज लाइक कि अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ वर कमिंग और जो मुझे सही लगी, आई ऑप्ट फॉर दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी. But now I am kind of mindful of that, and I actually enjoy the transition.
Oh.
Because HR में काम तो more or less एक ही जैसा है, but with industrial transition, I think you get amazing opportunity to learn.
बिल्कुल.
And to get that exposure, जो कि अगर आप सिर्फ HR में ही करते रहेंगे तो probably at some point in time you feel that you're doing a monotonous kind of job.
Oh yes, true.
So industry switches is something that keeps me on my toes because there's always something to learn about
बिल्कुल.
some industry.
बिल्कुल. अच्छा, you were telling me about how you prioritize your kids, ठीक है, and you took a career break for that. So please tell us about that thing कि वो जो आपने career break लिया वो क्या risk था, and you know how were you able to get back into the work and now alhamdulillah leading an entire organization when it comes to HR. So please tell us a bit about that.
अच्छा, तो मैं अपनी कॉन्वर्जेशन पे वहीं से कंटिन्यू करूंगी कि आफ्टर लैंडी रेंजो आई वाज गिवन द आई टुक अप द अपॉर्चुनिटी इन एवरी डेनिसन दैट इज वन ऑफ द अमेरिकन फॉर्च्यून 500 कंपनीज. So वहाँ पे that's the time when I took my career break. I worked there for about a year or so, and then I had my daughter. और उसके बाद I had to take this risk in my career because you know the kind of mindset that prevails in the society. I've even heard people saying कि जी अब तो आपने 1-2 साल का गैप ले लिया, अब तो आपकी वर्थ जीरो हो गई. ठीक है, so it was a big risk for me, but ultimately I had to take it because I was very clear in my head as to what to prioritize at that particular point in time, and I'm so glad I did it because after the daughter I had a son as well, so that career break was extended to a span of 3 years in that time. So I was actually able to inculcate all the good habits, I would say, the sleeping and the eating habits that I could. So I actually made the most of that time, most of my career break. So because I was very clear that I had to return to my profession, and for that matter, I wanted my kids to be independent enough. I didn't want them to be fussy eaters. I wanted to develop good sleeping, eating habits, discipline in them, so that when I'm back to my professional life, I'm able to focus fully on my work. So after that career break for about 3 years, I joined Eden Rope as the head of HR. I was heading the HR department there. It was a big scope because I was heading the retail in terms of HR, the head office, and the factory workers as well. So वहाँ पे I worked for about 3 years, and then I joined Marriott. Marriott में भी almost 3 साल का था, and then now Sante. So when I say कि उस ब्रेक का मुझे फ़ायदा कैसे हुआ, वो ऐसे हुआ कि मैंने उस टाइम पे उनको जितना टाइम देना था, जितनी उनकी हैबिट्स डेवलप करनी थी, वो सब मैंने कर दिया. नाउ आई एम रीपिंग दैट बेनिफिट दैट अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मैं नाउ आई एम एबल टू फोकस फुल्ली ऑन माय वर्क. मुझे उनकी तरफ से प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. दे आर माशाल्लाह नाउ ग्रोन अप किड्स एज वेल, और शुरू से उनको आदतें ऐसी डाली थी, दे हैव टू डू देयर ओन होमवर्क. Yes, they can come up to me whenever they are stuck. So by the time I reach home, most of their work is already done by them. Not that they are dependent on someone. So they're independent enough. They have their particular screen time. So ज़्यादा नहीं देख सकते. You know, so these things, these rules that I set from the beginning are now reaping benefit for me.
Very disciplined kids, I'd say. मुझे एक बात बताएं मेरीन, क्योंकि आपने इस तरह से अपनी पूरी करियर जर्नी के बारे में बताया. मुझे एक बात बताएं that you were telling me about there was this instance where जो आपकी position थी was of somewhere around being an assistant manager, but जो आप काम कर रही थी that was about leading or heading the department. तो वो क्या factor था आपके अंदर that was you know that made you able to thrive, that made you able to be on the role and give your 100%? What was that thing?
Yes, that's a very good question, Ahmed. So basically that happened at Landy Renzo, where I was working as the assistant manager, but I was heading the department and I was directly reporting to the MD Asia Pacific region, who was also the CEO of our organization. और आई टुक इट एज अ चैलेंज बिकॉज वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा पॉलिसीज वगैरह डेवलप नहीं थी. सो ऑल ऑफ दिस ऑल्सो कम्स फ्रॉम द इनिशिएटिव्स दैट यू टेक. इट्स नॉट ऑलवेज द थिंग्स दैट आर असाइन्ड टू यू बाय द मैनेजमेंट, बट इट इज ऑल्सो हाउ माइंडफुल you are to analyze those gaps that are there in the organization and how you capitalize on those opportunities. So since I saw that the policies and procedures are missing, are not formulated in that way, so I took this initiative of developing the policies and the SOPs. So I feel कि चीज़ें इतना structure होना शुरू हो गई थी कि my boss did not feel to have the head of the department over me, क्योंकि जो काम उन्होंने करने थे वो मैंने अपने ऊपर ले लिए थे. And since I was good with written communication and also things used to get approved like policies or procedures. हम obviously market से भी data लेते थे, survey भी करते थे, फिर management के साथ भी meeting होती थी, but वो सारी चीज़ें हो गई. So obviously for all the viewers out there, I would also say कि it's not कि आपकी performance dependent है सिर्फ आपके manager पे कि वो आपको क्या काम दे रहा है और आपने उतना ही करना है. A lot is also dependent on the gaps that you identify within the organization or in the job role, and how you capitalize those opportunities in your benefit and the organization benefit as well.
And then taking the ownership of that.
Exactly.
Once you have started the initiative, उसको छोड़ नहीं देना, उसकी
Exactly.
ownership लेके उसको complete करना.
Exactly. That's how you make yourself visible.
True. So Mehreen, because you have been a leader, you have been heading the people, heading the departments, I'm sure कि बहुत सारे conflicts arise हुए होंगे और बड़ा difficult होता है to have a difficult conversation, to be able to manage and resolve those conflicts. So if you look back at your journey, वो कौन सा conflict था जो सबसे challenging था आपके लिए, जो आपके थोड़ा सा मुश्किल था? How were you able to do justice with that conflict?
Okay, मेरे लिए सबसे ज़्यादा challenging situation हमेशा वो होती है जिसमें my decision can make or break the future or the reputation of the employee. ठीक है, अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे पास कोई केस रिपोर्ट हुआ है और मैं सिर्फ वन साइडेड स्टोरी सुन के उस पर अपना फैसला दे दूँ, सो दैट्स नॉट जस्ट ऑन माई पार्ट एज वेल, बिकॉज द काइंड ऑफ रोल दैट आई एम हैविंग, आई हैव टू keep justice, maintain justice within the organization. So whenever a conflict arises, I always make sure that I give both parties equal opportunity to express themselves. और उसमें फिर आपका जितना relevant stakeholders involved हैं, if there are witnesses, because obviously I have dealt with unions in the past, so there are set procedures. आपका different committees होती हैं, inquiry committees होती हैं, fact finding committee होती है, harassment committee होती है, so you follow all those protocols and you give equal opportunity to both the parties to express themselves. I've also learned this in my career, that a lot of things or a lot of conflicts arise due to the lack of communication between relevant stakeholders as well. So whenever a conflicting situation is there, first you have to diffuse the situation by giving both parties equal chance to be heard. पहले अलग अलग आप उनसे बात करें, because if you call them all at once, so it's going to be a mess. It's going to be chaos in your room. तो पहले आप तो situation को diffuse करें by hearing them out individually. उसके बाद आप थोड़ा सा mediator का role play करें. And then meanwhile, I believe कि आधे conflicts तो तभी solve हो जाते हैं जब आप उनको सुन लेते हैं when they went out.
Very true, very true.
So when they feel that they are being valued enough to be given a chance to be heard, और वो अच्छे से went out आपके सामने कर सकते हैं, आधे conflicts तो आपके वहीं ख़त्म हो जाते हैं.
सही.
और उसके बाद फिर आप different sources से आप information gather करें, जहाँ पे जिसकी जो गलती है उसको subtle तरीके से बता दें.
सही.
So there are different, obviously that depends a lot on the situation as well. I also remember a time in my career where जो मैंने बात की थी कि a lot of conflicts or situations arise due to the lack of communication between relevant stakeholders. So there was a time in my career when a case was put forward for me, and there was a large sum of amount against a particular employee that he was supposed to pay. He was the regional sales manager in one of my companies.
And the amount was?
And the amount was 1 crore.
Yeah. Back in?
I won't quote the year because वो फिर identify हो जाएगा कि मैं किस company की बात कर रही हूँ, but that was few years back when 1 crore used to be an amount. ठीक है, which still it is, but back then it was some amount. So that was an outstanding against him, and that employee, I still remember his uneasiness and the kind of pressure or the stress he was in. He used to come to me, मैम मैंने नहीं किया, मेरे against ये outstanding नहीं है. अब उसको देख के आई कुड फील कि यार देयर इज समथिंग रॉन्ग इन दैट, बट सिस्टम में शो हो रही थी. एंड सिंस ऑब्वियसली सेल्स में इस तरह की चीज़ें होती हैं, आपके अगेंस्ट आउटस्टैंडिंग होती है. So I then thought that let's just dig into it. So I involved all the stakeholders, जितने भी relevant departments थे. We had couple of meetings, and then later it was identified that that was a wrong entry in the SAP.
Oh.
Because of which it was showing that amount outstanding against him. So this is how that conflict was resolved, and I still remember the words that that employee spoke to me, his thankfulness and everything, because obviously उसके लिए तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा stressful situation थी, एक चीज़ उसने की भी नहीं, and his whole reputation was also at stake. So at times you have to be mindful, and at times you have to make sure that you have to involve all the relevant stakeholders in order to resolve that conflict.
Okay. So to sum up, this is to be mindful, to listen to everybody. I mean, all the relevant stakeholders involved, and then looking at the situation from a macro thing कि यार इसमें और क्या क्या हो सकता है, क्या ये हुआ भी होगा, नहीं हुआ होगा, और सोचिए अगर आप वो सब नहीं करती तो उस एम्प्लॉय की रेपुटेशन भी जाती, जॉब भी जाती, और 1 करोड़ रुपए भरने पड़ जाते.
हाँ, वरना कोई लिटिगेशन हमें उसके अगेंस्ट करनी पड़ती. अगर सिर्फ ये होता कि नहीं जी मैनेजमेंट की तरफ से आया है, सिस्टम में है,
करना
आ
है
रहा
तो
है तो
करना
है,
है.
करना है तो करना है. बट वो वाली चीज़ नहीं होनी चाहिए. आपको अपनी एफर्ट पूरी करनी चाहिए.
I'm so glad that you did all of that and you saved a life. Because आपने इतना टाइम गुजारा इस सारे प्रोसेस में, आपके लिए सबसे मेजर चैलेंज क्या था इन दिस ग्रोथ जर्नी दैट यू हैड, और आपने उसको कैसे मैनेज किया?
चैलेंज तो एज सच I know challenge comes with the switching in the industries. Uska I've already explained ke I develop cordial relationship with the with the different HODs. Because whenever you make industrial switch, apart from the orientation, a lot is also dependent on your co-peers and all. Okay, so you have to have collaborative nature and you have to have good relationship with them so that they are they feel they can conveniently share the stuff with you. So I think a challenge मेरा industrial switch की वजह से ही रहा है, but I believe that I'm a quick learner and I have no shame in asking if I don't know something. So this has been something that has been a true saver in my life as well. Obviously, we're all human beings and we have our own capacities. So if you don't know anything, just ask it. There's no shame in asking what you don't know, rather than just pretending that you know it and then arriving to a wrong conclusion, या कोई गलत डिसीजन लें, या आप कोई ऐसी चीज़ करें जो आपको पता नहीं हो, जिसके ऐसे कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हों.
तो आपने कहा दैट, मुझे जो आपकी बात से बहुत अच्छी लगी एक बात, was the relationships. So how are you able to make good relationships where people are able to share things with you? वो आपका सीक्रेट क्या है?
मेरा सीक्रेट सिर्फ इतना सा है कि I don't do things by virtue of my position. Since I am the head of HR, so I have to show that authority to people.
Okay.
ठीक है, I am a very collaborative kind of a person. I'm a good listener. I feel I'm empathetic as well. So मुझे ये नहीं होता कि मैंने अपनी पावर दिखानी है कि लोगों को फील हो कि जी हेड ऑफ HR ने कहा है. No, this is not who I am. I want things to be solved with mutual understanding, mutual cooperation. So I think this has been the secret ingredient for me कि I don't create unnecessary fuss in the organization.
All right. So Mehreen, you told me that you also love nature and you love going to mountain, you love going to the water. तो वो आपने, because I learn a lot from nature, तो वो nature से आपने क्या एक lesson सीखा है?
Yes, अहमद, I do love nature. अगर मुझे ऑप्शन दिया जाए कि आपने इस मॉल में जाके शॉपिंग करनी है या आपने पहाड़ों और दरियाओं में जाना है, तो मैं दूसरा वाला ऑप्शन लूँगी. I love nature. नेचर से आई थिंक लेसन यही मिलता है कि नेचर इज़ नॉट सेल्फिश, नेचर इज़ अ गिवर. वो बगैर इफ्स एंड बट्स देखे इक्वली सबको नवाज रही है. ठीक है, बट वी ऑन द अदर हैंड are not responsible enough to conserve the nature, the climate change and all of this that we are having now. जिस तरह की लाहौर में सिचुएशन है या ओवरऑल ही अगर हम सिनेरियो की बात करें, so we are not mindful enough to conserve this nature for our future generations to come. On the other hand, nature is not selfish and is a giver basically.
Okay. So Mehreen, a lot of viewers are watching us, listening to us. और वो भी वो अचीव करना चाहते हैं. फंडामेंटली हो सकता है एरियाज डिफरेंट हों, बट एवरीबडी अराउंड हियर हु इज लिसनिंग टू अस एंड द थीम इज रीडिफाइनिंग व्हाट्स पॉसिबल. वो भी अचीव करना चाहते हैं, मैं भी अचीव करना चाहता हूँ. सो व्हाट्स दैट वन टिप यू वुड वांट टू गिव आउट ऑफ दिस 17-18 years की जर्नी जो आपने गुजारी? वन टिप दैट कैन हेल्प अस.
Embrace change. Don't be afraid to take initiatives or risks in your life. There's no shame in asking what you don't know. So I think there are not one tip but couple of tips के capitalize on the gaps. जैसे मैंने बात की कि take initiatives. Do not rely on others to hold your hand and to take you somewhere. A lot is not a lot. Actually, it actually depends on you कि आप कितनी effort कर रहे हैं अपने लिए in order to be there.
All right. So thank you so much, Marine. That's the end for the podcast, but not for our learning journey. I'll stay connected with you, and I'm so thankful to you that you're able to take out time and facilitate us in the process of recording this podcast, making your learnings, sharing your learnings with all of the viewers out there. So on behalf of everybody out there, and on my behalf, on Learning Minds behalf, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking out time and being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I
Thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed this
Thank you.
podcast. Thank
Thank
you.
you.